Toxic, narcissistic bosses are dangerous because they destroy careers and lives if you don't know who or what you're dealing with. In this video, I'll share 6 proven ways of navigating a toxic boss. But first, a story from my own career. Next, I'll share behaviors that feel uncomfortable but aren't really toxic. Next are the 7 signs of a toxic boss. And finally, 6 proven ways to survive them. First, this was my first experience with a truly toxic boss. I didn't know him that well because I worked with clients in the organization and our interactions were limited. But this day, I was giving a presentation to senior management with my boss. And as we were sitting outside the boardroom waiting to go in, he said, "I know of a dozen ways that I could kill you with this pen. If you're ever disloyal to me, you'll find out which one I prefer." He laughed and told me he was just trying to relax me before we went in. I smiled and nodded, and then asked him what he meant by disloyal because I was confused. He became very serious. He said, "By disloyal, I mean speaking bad about me, upstaging me, doing anything that diminishes my stock with senior leaders." Well, the presentation went well, but I started looking for another job afterwards. Fortunately, he was let go before I left. Toxic bosses, narcissists, and those who deal out narcissistic abuse are rare. But if you find that you're reporting to one, I'll tell you how to survive it. First, let's identify 2 categories of behaviors that might rattle you emotionally, but aren't really toxic. I know some of you don't want to hear this, but a boss with high standards who is clear about those standards and doesn't suffer fools, that's a difficult boss, but not a toxic or narcissistic boss. That boss will help you grow into excellence if you accept the challenge and up your game. Second, some bosses are uncomfortable due to style mismatches. You might be a thoughtful, empathetic person while they're very assertive, maybe even aggressive. Adapt to their style and you'll be fine. Style differences come in all relationships, and you navigate these by appreciating that we see the world differently, appreciating their strengths, speaking up about what's working and what's not, and negotiating your way to a great relationship. The behaviors that make a boss toxic, narcissistic, perhaps even sociopathic are the following 6 clusters of behaviors to watch for. The first is the blow-up. This is a situation where they're highly reactive, accusatory, have no problem calling you ugly names. They are set off for little or no apparent reason and go into a tirade of accusation, blame shifting, and negative labels. This form of narcissistic abuse is wild when you see it because all rationality goes out the window while they attack, yell, and can't be reasoned with. The second is recruitment after the episode, but no real apology. Remember the first Batman movie, the phrase from Jack Palance, "You're my number 1 guy." Well, that's re-recruitment in play. Side note, this is the one reason why narcissistic romantic relationships do so much harm is the extreme reactions followed by this love-bombing re-recruitment thing they do with no ownership of their behavior and certainly no change. Number 3 is loyalty over everything else. When you see them hiring cronies who lack base-level competence, you're watching a narcissistic, perhaps even sociopathic person. Number 4, stealing credit, slinging blame. In their eyes, we exist to further their career at any personal price. Number 5, asking for dishonesty. When they want you to fabricate a report, lie on a survey to make them look good, or tell the family lies when their fraud is investigated, you're with a narcissistic boss. Number 6, disrespecting boundaries. Some jobs are truly a 24/7 availability, but most aren't. When your boss demands to speak to you at 11 p.m. at night when they could have easily waited until the next morning, they're playing a control game with you. And number 7, shifting goalpost. What was excellent yesterday has now somehow become not so good. And by the way, what have you done for me lately? Okay, let's move on to the 6 proven actions for navigating this narcissistic boss. HR is your friend, but if you work for a small or family business, narcissists can rule unchecked, and your only option is to get out. So number one, to avoid the blow up, keep it super simple in their language. Yes, it's a form of walking on eggshells, but it is possible to avoid a blow up by very carefully presenting information in the most digestible form possible. And number two, it's kind of like that, but go gray rock when they're ranting, accusing, and overreacting. By the way, gray rock's the term for the best and only way to be with a narcissist. Gray rock means that you maintain composure in the face of extreme behavior. It means that your energy is neutral, you don't react, you stay focused on the outcome, and you don't get pulled into their drama. Like the guy who said he'd kill me if I were disloyal, I didn't react, but I simply nodded my head. Gray rock. Sadly, they smell fear or weakness, and gray rock is the way to show strength without triggering them into greater overreaction. The one exception is the senior leader I worked with who was very aggressive. She was a bully. I gray rocked it until one day I couldn't keep it anymore. I just couldn't keep it on the level. I didn't explode, but I was very assertive and letting her know how her behavior affected productivity, what I thought of an idea she loved, and options she needed to consider. I was shocked that she started respecting me. We became equals in a way. Use a strong, assertive approach only when you know they're looking for someone to challenge them. Otherwise, this approach will get you fired. By the way, this was an example of matching her style. Okay, number three, proven: document, and document some more. I used email a lot to summarize discussions, give statuses, let them know of meeting agendas. The paper trail came in handy when I had to defend myself when the accusations would fly, especially when their fraud was being investigated. Number four is engage allies. This toxic boss will take credit for your work and will throw you under the bus, but the more allies you have and are able to build within the company, the more people you'll have to defend you when you're not in the room. Number five is guard your tongue. While it's tempting to complain about the boss to others or rant on social media, don't do it. You never know who is a flying monkey for the wicked witch. Seriously, you'll be tempted, but don't. Be neutral about the toxic boss unless you know for sure you can trust the other person. While you may get a form of support on social media for friends, what you post online is available to many eyes and will be available for years. Don't overshare on social media just because you're looking for support. And finally, number six, line up options. Sadly, your mental health will suffer if you stay with a toxic boss too long. Get out. In summary, don't let a narcissistic, toxic boss ruin your career or your life. Use these 6 proven survival techniques to keep yourself safe. Folks, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to the Change Capability Institute to keep this type of content coming your way.